It began on the edge of Earth's orbit. A massive black ship, shaped like a hook, appeared without warning. No lights, no signals, only silence. Then the message came. We are the Zarnath. Surrender and survive. Resist and be erased. The humans, of course, chose to resist. The Zarnath were tall creatures with shiny dark green skin. Their bodies were like strong insects, thin arms, wide chests, and sharp eyes that glowed red. Their leader, General Brock, stood at the center of their command bridge, watching Earth with a cold smile. Brock believed Earth would fall quickly. His people had conquered 5 other planets in the last 20 years. None of them had given him real trouble. Humans, he thought, were small, soft, and far too emotional. Weak minds, he told his officers. They cry, they argue, and they bring animals into battle. He was talking about the dogs. On Earth, soldiers gathered in the ruined city of Valenport, a coastal city now mostly destroyed by earlier Zarnath bombings. The humans wore simple armor and carried rifles powered by Earth's best energy packs. But what caught the attention of the Zarnath were the dogs walking beside the soldiers. Some were big, like Torek, a dark brown shepherd with bright eyes and a scar on his nose. Others were smaller, like Nix, a fast terrier who moved like the wind. Each dog wore light armor on its back and sides. Some carried tools. Others wore sensors. A few had cameras on their heads. From the Zarnath point of view, it looked like madness. Are they bringing pets? Brock asked, watching the screen. Do they think barking beasts can stop plasma? One of his officers laughed. Perhaps. They ran out of real soldiers. Brock smiled and leaned forward. Very well, let's begin the test. Send a small group to land near their defense line. I want to see these pets in action. The first Zarnath squad landed outside Valenport. In the early morning, 10 armored soldiers stepped out, their armor shining under the red sunrise. Each carried plasma rifles, and their eyes scanned for enemies. They found human soldiers waiting, hiding behind walls and burned-out vehicles. A short battle followed. Human bullets hit metal armor. Plasma bolts burned holes in concrete. Smoke rose. But the Zarnath were faster, stronger, and better armed. The humans had to fall back. Brock watched from above and laughed. They retreat already. But then he saw something strange. One of the Zarnath soldiers screamed and fell, not from a bullet, from something biting his leg. A small shape dashed across the field fast and low. It was Nix. She moved between cover, jumped over broken walls, and vanished before the Zarnath could aim. She came again from another side, biting wires, knocking over a device. Then a larger dog, Torak, ran in from behind and knocked another Zarnath to the ground. A third dog dropped smoke bombs and escaped. Brock's smile disappeared. Are they using these creatures to flank us? He asked sharply. An officer replied, confused. They move without commands. They're not being controlled. Brock narrowed his eyes. No, they're working with the humans. Captain Rafi, commander of the Earth unit in Valenport, stood behind a broken window and watched the fight. His hand rested gently on Torak's back as the big dog returned from the field. Torak's armor was scratched, but he was unharmed. His tongue hung out, tail wagging slowly. Good work, Rafi whispered, then turned to his team. The Zarnath didn't expect this. Let's keep it that way. Each human squad was paired with at least one trained dog. Some dogs were messengers. Others were scouts, and a few were trained to carry small explosives. But what made them powerful wasn't just training. It was trust. The dogs weren't robots. They weren't remote weapons. They were living, thinking partners who acted on instinct and memory. They could read danger before machines could. They could find paths no drone could follow. And most important, they would risk everything for the humans they loved. The Zarnath didn't understand that. Back on the ship, Brock watched the remaining soldiers retreat. 2 were wounded. 1 was missing. How many dogs did they use? He asked coldly. 5, came the answer. 5? Brock repeated. 5 creatures caused this much trouble? He turned to the screen again, now showing the city from above. Humans moved between buildings, setting up new defenses, and beside them, the dogs, always alert, always ready. Brock clenched his jaw. Begin the main assault. We'll show them what real war looks like. He had no idea that real war was already coming, and it had fur, sharp teeth, and a loyalty stronger than any plasma weapon. After the Zarnith's failed first strike, the city of Valenport turned quiet. The smoke from broken buildings hung low. Streets were empty, windows dark. But inside the ruins, humans moved like shadows. And beside them, the dogs moved too silent. Fast and alert, Captain Raffi stood on the second floor of an old library, looking through binoculars. Beside him sat Torak, his trusted shepherd, ears up, eyes focused. Below them, a squad placed traps along an alleyway, pressure mines, tripwires, and motion sensors. Torak gave a low growl. Raffi didn't speak. He had learned long ago that Torak's warning was never wrong. He turned to the radio. Squad C, hold your position. Enemy drones nearby. Just seconds later, 2 Zarnith scouts floated into view. They hovered silently, scanning the area with red lights. But the humans were gone, hidden under rubble, behind steel doors, or under camo nets. Only the dogs remained in open view, walking slowly, sniffing the ground, pretending to be lost. The Zarnith didn't attack. They only watched, confused. Strange. One drone pilot said to Brock, "They leave animals behind." Brock replied, "Let the beasts walk. They are no threat." He was wrong. Very wrong. Nyx, the fast little terrier, ran through a broken sewer pipe beneath the city. On her back was a small pack filled with tools. She stopped at a tunnel junction, turned left, and followed the scent trail of a Zarnith patrol. She wasn't alone. 5 other dogs were moving through the same tunnel system, each going in different directions, each with a mission. Above ground, the Zarnith began their main assault. Giant walkers marched through the streets. Energy blasts tore apart buildings. From the sky, black drones rained lasers on rooftops. Brak watched proudly from orbit. "This is the end," he said. "No army can stand against our machines." He didn't notice the power flicker in the walkers. He didn't see his drones crashing in pairs. He didn't hear the faint, sharp bark in the background of a battlefield camera. But Raffi did. In the central square of Valenport, a group of Zarnith soldiers stopped near a large metal box. It was a power hub, one of their own, brought to boost their shields and communications. They connected it, ready to push deeper into the city. That's when Boji, a black Labrador, appeared. He was calm. His tail wagged. He looked like a friendly dog walking in the wrong place. The Zarnith aimed their weapons. Before they fired, Boji dropped a small silver box from his mouth, turned, and ran. It was an EMP charge. 3 seconds later, it exploded. No flames, no sound, just a wave of invisible energy. The hub died instantly. Zarnith's shields flickered and vanished. Their comms went silent. Their map screens turned black. Chaos followed, everywhere in the city. The dogs struck. Some crawled through air vents and knocked out signal repeaters. Others ran through destroyed homes, dropping smoke bombs and flash grenades. In one alley, a dog named Reno leapt from a second floor, tackled a Zarnith officer, and ran away with the enemy's radio unit. The aliens fired wildly, but they hit nothing. The dogs were always one step ahead, always disappearing into cracks, pipes, or holes. "They are not just animals," one Zarnith soldier shouted over a broken cum. "They are soldiers." Brock watched the chaos unfold from above. His screens showed broken units, lost signals, and confused squads. A map of Valenport that once showed control now blinked with red warnings. "This is not possible," he shouted. "How are they doing this?" One of his officers replied, "The dogs, sir. They're not being used like tools. They act like teams. Like soldiers." Brock's claws scratched the table. "Send in the heavy units. Crush the city. Burn everything." Back in the library, Raffi received the news. "Their walkers are heading our way," a soldier said. "They want to wipe the city." Raffi looked. At Torek, the dog stood at attention, calm and ready. "We're not done yet," Raffi said. "Send the signal." Time for the dogs to lead. The message was sent across the city using hand radios and short signals. It wasn't a loud command. It wasn't a speech. It was a sound. A soft beep followed by a short tone. Every trained dog knew what it meant. Your turn. That night, Valenport became a maze of confusion for the Zarnath. Walkers stepped into false roads and triggered traps. Soldiers were misled by fake noises. Drones followed heat signatures only to find. Dogs. The aliens shot at shadows, followed trails that led to nowhere, and walked into dead zones where ambushes waited. And the dogs? They never stopped moving. They didn't need orders. They just knew what to do. From the top of a broken tower. Raffi watched it all with night vision goggles. Torek sat beside him, quiet and focused. "They still don't understand," Raffi said softly. "They think we trained our dogs for war." He gave Torek a gentle pat. "But the truth is, they chose to fight for us. That's something aliens will never understand." The sky above Valenport was filled with smoke. Fires burned in broken buildings. The ground shook with every step of the Zarnath warwalkers. Huge metal machines, like tall spiders, stomped through streets, firing plasma bolts in every direction. From orbit, General Brock watched carefully. His smile had returned. "The dogs cannot stop machines," he said confidently. "No matter how clever they are still animals." But once again, Brock underestimated Earth's defenders and their four-legged warriors. Near the city's west side, two Zarnath walkers moved toward a supply depot. Behind piles of rubble, 3 human soldiers crouched, listening to their radios. With them was Reno, the golden dog known for speed and courage. A voice came through the headset. "The walkers have turned right. Confirm path?" The team leader whispered, "Confirmed, ready for distraction." Reno didn't wait for an order. He already knew. He darted out from behind the wall, ran across the road, and barked once. Just loud enough. The walkers turned. One fired a blast. Reno rolled under a broken car and vanished down a side alley. "Foolish beast," a Zarnath officer muttered. They followed. What they didn't know, Reno had led them into Zone Echo, an area filled with homemade traps, mines, oil pits, wire nets. As soon as the walkers entered, the ground shook. One leg of the first walker collapsed, pulled into a hole. Then an explosion hit the side of the second walker, tearing into its energy core. From nearby rooftops, human soldiers opened fire. The 2 machines fell. Reno returned minutes later, tail wagging, and dropped a broken Zarnath radio at the feet of his team. Across the city, other dogs carried out missions just as brave. In a narrow tunnel under an old train station, Nyx, the small terrier, was crawling through pipes with a camera. On her back, she found a Zarnath Camp 10 soldiers resting near a signal jammer. The humans couldn't reach that area without risking their lives. But Nyx could. She squeezed through the back of the camp and left a small device near their energy box. Sound beacon. When it activated, it played human voices yelling from the opposite direction. The Zarnath jumped to their feet and rushed away to attack shadows. By the time they returned, their jammer was destroyed by human explosives. Their supplies were gone, and Nyx? She was already back with her handler, licking water from a metal bowl. General Brock was no longer smiling. His forces were supposed to crush Valenport in a single day. It had been 3 days. His troops were losing equipment. His maps were full of static. His soldiers were scared, and the worst part? They couldn't even see their enemy clearly. The humans fight strangely, a field commander reported. They do not meet us head-on. They use silence, tricks, distraction. They use dogs, Brock snapped. His red eyes flashed with anger. Where are their real fighters? Why do they hide behind animals? The answer came from one of his junior officers. They are not hiding, sir. They are fighting with them. Brock turned slowly. Explain. The officer showed footage collected by drones. In the video, a group of humans and dogs moved together through broken buildings. The dogs went first, checking corners, listening for movement. The humans followed with care. If danger appeared, the dogs barked once or twice specific sounds, short and sharp. The humans responded instantly. Another clip showed a dog dragging an injured soldier to safety while bullets flew overhead. They trust each other, the officer said. They move as one. Brock slammed his fist into the table. They are beasts. They are not soldiers. But deep down, fear was starting to grow in his chest. Back on Earth, inside a small command tent, Captain Raffi watched live feeds from around the city. Tiny cameras on the dog's armor showed battles from strange angles, fast, low, full of motion. He saw Boji delivering water packs to trapped soldiers. He saw Torak leading 3 new recruits safely through a collapsing building. He saw Nix slipping under a tank, placing a magnet bomb, and running just before it exploded. They're doing more than we ever trained them for. One young soldier whispered. Raffi nodded. Because they don't fight for orders. They fight for us. In the southern zone of Valenport, a Zarnath group tried something new. They brought flame units. Dogs fear fire, one of them said. They began burning the streets, corners, and holes where dogs might hide. But even fire couldn't stop loyalty. From the smoke, Torak appeared, his fur singed, his eyes glowing with courage. He ran straight into the enemy group, dodging blasts, biting wires, and throwing off their aim. Soldiers panicked. In their confusion, one of them dropped a fire tank, which exploded, throwing flames in every direction. When the fire cleared, the Zarnath group was gone. Torak limped back to his base later, covered in soot but still alive. The soldiers clapped and cheered. Raffi knelt and hugged his friend, tears in his eyes. You saved them all, he whispered. Torak wagged his tail once and rested beside him. From the sky, Brock watched another walker fall. His officers were silent. His pride was broken. He finally spoke. Prepare the retreat ships. But leave some behind to delay them. The officer looked up. Leave who behind, sir? Brock stared coldly at the earth below. The ones who laughed at the dogs. Rain fell on the smoking ruins of Valenport. The streets were covered in broken glass, blackened steel, and the scent of war. But even in the middle of this destruction, the humans and their dogs continued to move quiet, focused, ready, inside. A small shelter made from metal sheets and sandbags. Captain Raffi was treating a soldier's wounded leg. His hands moved quickly, wrapping the bandage, but his mind was elsewhere. Sitting beside him was Torak, his loyal shepherd, still limping from the earlier fire battle. Raffi looked at him with soft eyes. You should be resting, he whispered. Torak didn't move. He sat tall, alert, ready for the next command. Across the shelter, another soldier cleaned mud off his dog's fur. Someone else shared half of their meal with a tired husky named Kato. Even in war, the bond between human and dog remained strong, unbroken, full of trust. Meanwhile, high above the city, General Brock stared at the reports. His red eyes burned. With frustration, more Zarnath units lost. More walkers destroyed. More patrols missing. And each time, the cause was the same. The humans and their dogs. He slammed his clawed hand on the table. This doesn't make sense. They are outnumbered. They are outgunned. How are they still winning? One officer spoke carefully. It's not just their weapons. It's something else. Something we don't understand, Brock growled. then understand it, now. So the Zarnath began watching. Not just with drones, but with spies, small insect bots that flew into human camps and recorded everything. What they saw shocked them. One recording showed a soldier crying quietly. His best friend had fallen in battle. The dog had died beside him. The soldier held the dog in his arms, not as a fallen tool, but like a lost family member. Others surrounded him. No one spoke, but every face was full of respect. Then, the next day, that same soldier led a mission deeper into enemy lines with 2 more dogs beside him. And this time, his heart burned not with fear, but with purpose. The Zarnath didn't understand this. They didn't understand how humans could feel pain, then rise even stronger. They didn't understand love on a battlefield. In one corner of the city, Boji, the black Labrador, was guiding a small boy through a damaged school. The boy was around 10, wearing torn clothes and holding a stuffed bear. Boji had found him hiding in a locker when the bombing started. Since then, Boji stayed beside him, keeping him safe, barking only when danger came close. A soldier named Rima finally reached them. She knelt beside the boy. "Where's your family?" The boy didn't answer. He only hugged Boji tightly. Rima looked at the dog, confused. "How did you know where to go?" Boji wagged his tail once and rested his head on the boy's shoulder. He didn't need orders. He just knew. Back at the command tent, a young soldier asked Raffi a question. "Sir, why do the dogs never run away?" "Don't they get scared?" Raffi smiled. "They get scared," he said. "But they don't leave us, because they trust us. And we trust them." He looked around at the tired faces of his team. Each soldier had a scar, a memory, or a story of being saved by their dog. Some had fought side by side for years. Some were new to the bond, but already felt it in their hearts. "You don't build that in training," Raffi said. "You build that in life." The Zarnath, in all their years of war, had never fought like this. Their soldiers followed code, orders, logic. Their machines moved based on patterns. Their leaders gave commands, and the rest obeyed. But here on Earth, they faced something different. Humans didn't fight with cold programs. They fought with feelings. The dogs didn't act like tools. They acted like partners. And when one side fought with emotion, while the other fought with calculation, the emotional side became unpredictable, dangerous, and powerful. Late that evening, the Zarnath tried a new trick. They launched a false surrender. A message was sent. "We wish to speak. Cease fire. Meet us with no weapons." Some humans wanted to go. Others were unsure, but it was Torak who gave the answer. As the peace message played on the radio, Torak stood and growled, loud, low, long. His ears turned back. His tail stiffened. Raffi listened. "That's a warning." He turned to his team. "It's a trap." They prepared early. When the Zarnath ambush came, the humans were already waiting in higher ground with dogs in position. The trap failed. The aliens lost again. Inside the Zarnath warship, Brock stood in silence. He finally spoke. "They aren't just soldiers. They bonded." He looked around. "We trained machines. They raised companions." One of his advisors said, "Shall we use beasts of our own?" Brock shook his head. "It won't work. They fight because of something we do not have, something we cannot copy." He paused, then whispered the word, "Loyalty." On Earth, the battle continued, but the air had changed. The humans were tired, yes, but stronger in spirit than ever. The dogs, though wounded and hungry, stood by them without fear. They didn't need orders. They didn't need medals. They didn't need promises. All they needed was the people they loved. The morning sky over Valenport turned golden as sunlight broke through thick smoke. The city was still broken, walls fallen, towers cracked, but the people inside were not broken. They were alive, they were fighting. And most importantly, they were learning. The Zarnath thought they were winning. But now the battle was changing. Captain Raffi stood at a rooftop with binoculars in hand. Torek stood beside him, ears raised, tail still. Together, they watched Zarnath soldiers build a new forward base near the river. Raffi lowered his binoculars. "They're getting slower," he said. "Less organized." Torek gave a short bark, then looked toward a hidden path through the ruins. Raffi nodded. "You felt it too, huh?" The bond between them had grown stronger with each day of battle. Torek didn't speak words, but Raffi understood him like a brother. Elsewhere, Nyx, the small terrier, was scouting. She had no armor today, just a camera collar and a tracking chip. She darted between walls, through pipes, and across broken wires. Her mission was simple: find weak points. What Nyx discovered shocked the humans. The Zarnath had started reusing their own destroyed tech. They were desperate. Their power stations were unguarded. Some plasma units sparked and glitched. The Zarnath weren't just struggling, they were falling apart from the inside. When Raffi saw the report, he called for a meeting. Inside a small shelter beneath a fallen bridge, the unit gathered. Soldiers, engineers, medics, and 8 dogs lay around the room, ears up, tails wagging, some napping after long runs. Raffi stood in front of a simple map. He used a marker to draw 3 red circles on Zarnath positions. These are their weak points. If we hit all 3 within the same hour, their entire forward line will collapse. Someone asked, "And what about backup?" "They still have drones, right?" Before Raffi could answer, a deep bark came from the back. It was Boji, the black Labrador. He stood, tail low, eyes serious. Raffi smiled. "Boji and his team will handle the drones." The plan was risky. 3 squads, 3 attacks, 3 dog units leading the charge. But the humans trusted their dogs. And the dogs? They didn't hesitate. At exactly 0500 hours, the mission began. Squad 1, led by Raffi and Torek, moved toward the river base. Squad 2, with Nyx and 2 scouts, headed into the factory zone. Squad 3, with Boji and a Comstech, crawled through tunnels beneath the northern hills. Each dog carried something different. Torek wore a jammer to block enemy sensors. Nyx carried small signal flares. Boji had a backpack with a hacking device and smoke charges. They didn't need words. Their training and more than that, their loyalty was enough. As Raffi's team reached the river, they took position behind broken trucks and smashed walls. Torek went ahead, creeping low under wires and over whetstones. He reached the enemy camp's edge, sniffed, paused, then barked once. That was the signal. The team moved forward. Gunfire cracked through the air, but Torek's jamming field confused the Zarnath weapons. Their shots missed. Their drones spun out of control. In less than 10 minutes, the base was silent. Taken. Nyx's team had a harder time. The factory zone was filled with trap-spinning drones, motion beams, and pressure pads. But Nyx was fast. She zipped past every beam, marked danger spots with small chalk signs, and returned 3 times to help slower soldiers cross safely. At the heart of the factory, she found the enemy's energy tank. She dropped her flare. Seconds later, a rocket hit the tank with perfect aim. The explosion shook the ground for blocks. Boji's mission was the most dangerous. In the tunnel, the team lost light. The air was thick, but Boji led the way with confidence. When they reached the surface, they were behind the Zarnath drone station. Boji crept through the wire gate, reached the console, and pulled the strap on his backpack. Smoke filled the air. Then, the hacking device activated. Within moments, half of the drones in the sky lost control. They flew in wild loops, crashed into buildings, or shut down completely. Boji returned to the team just as the enemy launched a blind counterattack and missed everything. Back at command, humans celebrated the triple victory. 3 enemy stations lost, drones falling. Zarnath soldiers confused and panicking. It was the first time since the invasion that the humans had truly pushed forward. And leading every step were the dogs. General Brock stared at the disaster from his ship. What is this?" he asked, voice shaking. "They destroyed 3 sectors in less than 1 hour." An officer replied quietly, "Their coordination is too strong. The dogs move faster than our sensors. They are not random. They are planning." Brock slammed his claws into the metal table. "They are just animals." But deep inside, even Brock was beginning to feel the truth. The humans had found something more powerful than his machines. They had something Brock's army never trained for. Unity. Later that night, Raffi sat with Torak beside a warm fire made from old fuel rods and wood. The city was still dangerous. But now, hope was real. He looked at the stars, then at his dog. "We're not just surviving anymore," he whispered. "We're winning." Torak leaned against him and let out a quiet sigh. And for the first time in many days, Raffi smiled. The city of Valenport was no longer silent. Once a place of broken walls and falling hope, it was now filled with human voices, moving feet, and the soft patting of paws. The humans had not only survived, they were now pushing the Zarnith back. And the aliens were running out of time. Far above Earth, inside the main Zarnith warship, General Brock paced across his control room. Around him, screens showed failure after failure. Lost sectors, fallen drones, missing squads. But what disturbed him most weren't the numbers. It was the faces. Human faces covered in dust, worn by war, but never broken. And beside those faces, always, the dogs. Brock's red eyes narrowed. "I want this ended. No more delays. Prepare the retreat ships. Pull our troops out of the inner zones." One officer hesitated. "Sir, if we leave now, it will be seen as defeat," Brock growled. "Then make it look like victory. Burn the city. Destroy their command center." And he paused, voice colder than ever. "Kill the dogs." Back on the ground, Captain Raffi was walking through the remains of a Zarnith supply base. Torak trotted beside him, nose low, checking for traps or surprises. A few soldiers were behind them, collecting tech and food. Raffi stopped as his radio beeped. A voice crackled through. "Zarnith forces pulling back in most zones, but gathering near our HQ. Looks like they're planning something big." Raffi's eyes narrowed. "They're not leaving without trying one last thing." Torak gave a short growl. His fur rose slightly. He felt it too. Something was coming. That night, the skies turned red once again. Dozens of Zarnith shuttles flew low over Valenport, heading straight for the human command center near the old train station. Plasma beams lit up the darkness. Ground shook with blasts. Sirens screamed, but the humans were ready. The dogs had warned them. Inside the command center, soldiers ran to defensive positions. Boji, the brave black Labrador, was the first to move. He led a group of soldiers to the east gate, carrying extra ammo in his pack. Nix, the fast terrier, ran through the ventilation system, placing sensor beacons where drones might enter. Reno, the golden retriever, helped pull a wounded soldier from a collapsed stairway, dragging him to safety. And Torak, he stayed by Raffi's side, guarding him as wave after wave of attacks hit the building. The Zarnith had brought their strongest units. Giant mechanical walkers fired from nearby hills. Their troops poured into the city's center, shooting wildly. But the humans didn't break. And neither did the dogs. The command center shook as part of the roof collapsed. Dust fell like snow. Raffi shouted, "Hold the left side. Don't let them in." Just then, a group of Zarnith soldiers breached the back entrance. Torak barked once, ran toward them, and leapt through the smoke. He bit into the lead alien's arm, knocking him backward. The second soldier raised his weapon but was stopped by a soldier who had followed Torak's path. Torak returned, limping slightly but standing proud. Raffi knelt beside him. "You saved us again." Torek only wagged his tail and went back to his post. The Zarnath expected an easy final blow. Instead, they met walls, traps, and organized resistance. But most of all, they met the dogs who seemed to appear from every direction, barking, biting, distracting, helping, leading. They're everywhere. One Zarnath shouted into his come. "They're not just attacking, they're protecting each other," Brock heard the reports. His plan was failing. Again, near the edge of the battlefield, a strange moment happened. A Zarnath soldier was pinned beneath part of a fallen ship. He could not move. He expected death. Then a shadow moved in front of him. It was a dog Boji. The soldier aimed his weapon, but the dog didn't attack. Boji just looked at him, then turned and ran. He didn't need to bite. He had already won. The Zarnath soldier lowered his weapon and stared into the smoke, confused and shaken. Back in the skies, Brock watched it all fall apart. His best machines were useless. His drones crashed. His soldiers were retreating without orders. And the worst part? He still didn't understand how. "They're just humans," he whispered. "And those are just animals." But even he didn't believe that anymore. By sunrise, the last Zarnath unit had pulled back. The humans didn't chase them far. They let them run. They had no interest in revenge. Victory was enough. At the center of the city, the human flag was raised on a broken building. Below it stood the soldiers of Earth, tired, dirty, wounded, but standing. And beside them stood the dogs, tails wagging, eyes bright, every single one of them still ready to protect. Raffi looked up at the flag, then down at Torek. "You know," he said quietly, "they laughed at us when this started." Torek looked at him. "But now," Raffi said with a smile, "they're the ones running." Torek gave a short, proud bark, and everyone around them laughed, not in mockery, but in joy, in relief, in victory. High above Earth, the Zarnath ship finally turned away. The stars swallowed it. And in its memory, one message remained: never laugh at humans, and never ever ignore the dog. A soft breeze passed through the ruined streets of Valenport. Sunlight touched the tops of broken buildings. Smoke had cleared. Fires were out. And for the first time in many days, the city was quiet. Not the silence of fear. The silence of peace. Captain Raffi sat on a step outside the command shelter. His armor was dusty, his arm in a sling. His face showed exhaustion, but his eyes still held light. Torek sat beside him, resting but alert. His tail slowly tapped the ground, eyes watching the horizon. Soldiers moved through the area, helping injured people, carrying supplies, and repairing old buildings. Children who had hidden during the war now came out of shelters, holding onto parents' hands. Some kids ran up to pet the dogs. And the dogs, tired but gentle, wagged their tails. They had seen war, but they were still kind. Later that day, a message came from Earth Command. Zarnath forces have fully retreated from Earth's orbit. Victory confirmed. Valenport will be remembered as the turning point. All soldiers and support units are to report for recognition. Raffi read the message aloud to his squad. Some clapped. Others smiled quietly. But when Raffi looked at the dogs beside them, Boji, Nix, Reno, and Torek, he knew they were the reason this victory happened. They should be the ones getting medals. One soldier said, patting Reno's head. "Yeah." Another added, "We followed them more than they followed us." 3 days later, a small ceremony was held on top of the city's old library. The building had lost one side during the invasion, but its roof still stood strong. A flag of Earth fluttered in the breeze. A line of soldiers stood in formation, and in front of them, proudly sitting side by side, were the dogs. Each one wore a fresh collar. Some had bandages, some had burned fur. But all had shining eyes. An officer stepped forward. He spoke clearly. These dogs were not just helpers. They were fighters. They delivered supplies under fire. They rescued the wounded. They carried messages where radios failed. They faced fear without hesitation. They gave us hope when machines could not. Today, they are not just dogs. They are soldiers, and they are heroes. Then came the clapping. Loud, long, real. No music. No fireworks, just respect. Torak stood proudly as Raffi stepped forward and saluted. Nix barked once and jumped in place, making the soldiers laugh. Boji wagged his tail and laid his head gently on his handler's knee. World began to hear their story. News reports from other cities told of brave dogs who stopped bombs, who guided civilians, who never gave up even when the humans did. Schools taught lessons on loyalty and partnership. Even scientists began to study the strange strength found in the human-dog bond. One alien observer, now living on Earth in peace, said it best: the Zarnath had the best weapons, but the humans had something better. A creature that does not ask why you fight. A creature that stands beside you because it loves you. Months later, a statue was built in the center of Valen Port. It was made of recycled metal from broken Zarnath walkers. It showed a soldier kneeling beside a dog, both looking ahead, ready for what came next. Below the statue, words were carved in simple letters. They did not run. They did not ask. They simply stood by us, and that changed everything. One quiet evening, Raffi walked through the city park. It had been rebuilt with green trees, benches, and clean stone paths. Torak walked beside him, older now, a few white hairs around his eyes. They passed people playing, dogs running, and children laughing. Raffi stopped near a tree and looked at the sky. "You remember how it all started?" he said softly. "They laughed at us, at you." Torak gave a small bark, but in the end, Raffi smiled. "You showed them what a real soldier looks like." He sat down on the bench. Torak laid his head on Raffi's leg, and together, in silence, they watched the stars far beyond Earth. In a distant Zarnath council chamber, a new leader spoke to the young warriors. They were studying past battles. One asked, "What mistake did we make on Earth?" The leader replied, "We studied their weapons. We counted their numbers. But we ignored something more powerful." He tapped a screen showing a photo of Raffi and Torak, side by side. "We laughed at their animals, and that was our biggest mistake."